Oh, happy day, beautiful people. We are here with another episode of the Positive Thoughts series, which is a series on how to shift more positively. I'm your girl, Yan, and I am so happy you are here and you're tuning in. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. This is episode 10 for us. We've been discussing different topics that basically are helping us to get into a more positive mindset. In this week's episode, I thought that this topic that I chose was kind of a little bit of a play off of last week's episode. In last week's episode, we talked about sacrificing something good for something better. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the topic of this week. This week's topic is think not of what you stand to lose, but what you stand to gain. And I thought that this was a really great one to go off of. I mean, I always say that they're a really great one because when you're talking about positivity, everything's great about being more positive. There's no downsides to being positive. You can only win by deciding to be more positive. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the reason that I chose this topic of this week, as I was saying, is that this plays off of our topic from last week, which was sacrifice something good for something better. And so this topic of this week, think not of what you stand to lose, but what you stand to gain, plays off of that topic because as we were talking about sacrifice, we were talking about, how you have to sometimes let go of things to get to something better, right? And so if you're not thinking about what you're losing and you're only thinking about what you're gaining, that's even more of a better positive mindset shift because you're not even thinking about anything as a loss. You're thinking about, well, I know if I do XYZ, I can get to XYZ. So that's why I chose this, because I was like, there's another piece of sacrifice that we're not talking about. Like, yes, we talked about letting go of something good to get to something better, but now we're talking about not focusing on what you stand to lose and looking at what you stand to gain. And so just jumping right into some examples, we can think about shifting into a positive mindset. If you decided, I don't want to be negative anymore, I want to be positive, right? I don't want to look at stuff in a bad way, I want to look at stuff in a good way. You be in that moment not focusing on what you stand to lose, which is, losing a bad attitude, thinking about stuff badly. Like, you'd be focusing on what you can gain. And the reason why you'd want to do that, because then the other piece to, I want to be more positive, is because being more positive is going to have me have a more positive attitude in the long run, right? I lose the negativity, I stop being negative, I start being more positive because it's going to allow me to look at things more positively. You now start focusing on what you stand to gain. And basically, the end goal in that is that it's going to be better for you. You're going to start thinking about things in more better ways. It's going to start being a more positive experience. Like, life will start to be a more positive experience for you. Nothing will bring you down. You won't let things control you. And we even talked about that, in an earlier episode, is focusing on what you can control and relinquishing what you cannot control. And so that's really what this entire just whole piece of shifting into a more positive mindset really is. It really goes to the root cause of really just relinquishing control and sacrificing to get to something better, And so that example is really, it kind of sounds complex the way I explained it. I hope that I'm making sense, but basically what I'm saying is that we wouldn't want to focus on what we stood to lose. Like, I'm losing a bad attitude. Oh, okay. I'm losing thinking about stuff in a negative way. Oh, okay. Like, actually, this sounds great, right? I'm focusing on what I stand to gain, which is a more positive attitude, and start thinking about things more positively. Great. Like, these are all great things. This card really talks about, like, more so just present tense things. Like, if you can think about anything that you decided you wanted to do, but you'd have to lose something, Like, wouldn't it be more beneficial to say, well, I'm not really losing, I'm actually gaining? You know what I mean? And so when we were thinking about this card, that's what I want us to always be thinking about when we want to be more positively, is that anything that you're letting go of, it usually should be because it's something better and you stand to gain something better, right? So let's look at a job example. That'd be our next example. Say you lose your job, right? It might be seen as something that's just like the worst thing ever, right? However, you stand to gain a better job. Because usually if you lose a job, it could be for a variety of reasons, right? We know like layoffs happen, or, maybe you got fired, or maybe you were deciding this just wasn't the job for me anymore. What did you stand to gain though? Like, you can learn from that job and basically take that to your next job. Similarly, we can look at relationships, right? A relationship isn't working out. You're deciding like, well, maybe it's best I move on because it's just not working out. We're butting heads too much. We're having problems too much. There's just constant back and forth, constant disagreements, and we're just not aligning. In that situation, would you be losing? You wouldn't be losing, right? You'd actually be gaining by getting out of that and moving on. You wouldn't have to worry about the constant nagging, the constant disagreements, the stuff that you guys just can't get past, right? It would be a more positive experience for you to just decide to move forward and focus on you. And that would be for your good. You'd stand to gain no longer having to be with somebody who's, in it's disagreements or whatever, you know what I mean? And that could be a more positive thing for you to do, right? So in situations like those two, it'd be for your good. It'd be for gaining something. Like, you wouldn't be losing anything. And I talk a lot about this just to my friends, in knowing that nothing is ever a loss. It's always for your good. In the Bible, we talk about that, like, they did this for your harm, but God did it for your good. So did you ever really lose anything if you gain something even more, So that's another example to that. And our last example would really just be like, just a clear example of losing something in general, right? We've all lost something, like just some material item, but did you really lose it? Like, I mean, hopefully it wasn't stolen from you, God forbid. That's different. But even then, if we thought about it in terms of, maybe they needed it more than I did. You lost something, but what do you stand to gain? You can get better, or better will come to you. Either way, you stand to gain even better from it because it's gone. It's out of your possession. And what can you really do about that? It's something that you simply just cannot control, and you just have to let go, So there's a lot of different sides to look at this. We started talking about how when you sacrifice things, you let go of those things. Those are an intentional thing, but you also have to be looking at it in ways of things that can be unintentional. You never really lost something. You actually gained something in the process. Like, going back to the relationship example again, if you learn something from that relationship, you've gained something essentially, because that's something that you didn't know before that you can go on in life and have with you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And so back to the card, think not of what you stand to lose, but what you stand to gain. Everything is for your good. It's for your better. And it's knowing that what's for you will truly be for you. And so I think that this closes out this episode of this week. I want us to always be thinking about what we stand to gain, because I'm pretty sure that on the other side of a loss is a gain, right? You're gaining something, and nothing is ever really a loss. What is for you will always be for you, and always be thinking in a more positive mindset, because we don't want to focus and dwell on the things that we don't have control over. We don't want to focus and dwell on the things that we thought we lost. No, it just wasn't for you. That'll close out this episode. And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.